good morning or good afternoon. I don't know, we are in the middle of the day, so we can say both. First, dear colleagues, because many of you are part of the bank, but also dear guests for the one who are joining us today. My name is Laure Morcy, and I am the Chief Operating Officer of BNP Paribas. And today, I'm deeply impressed to see how many of you have followed, in fact, our invitation, because today it is the second FinTechMeets conference, and today it's the first time that we can also welcome you in this beautiful place, and so we are very happy to celebrate and inaugurate this new building and the capacity it offers us. We attracted already a large audience at our previous conference, which was on blockchain. But today, you have been even more numerous to show your interest in the topics we are going to address today. This is simply with evidence, I would say, because big data is a big question, and big data is also probably deemed to have big impacts for all of us. This conference has been organized jointly with the Lux Future Lab and with our internal IT department, which is an important department in the bank. Why this is making a lot of sense? It's because with this type of conference, what we aim at doing is joining forces. Forces of our internal experience as IT members and dealing with such topics, but also mixing the forces with new talents, creative talents, well, I could even say disrupting talents. And this is how we can both contemplate where the future is leading us on such topics as big data. We also care very much, of course, including in this discussion and conferences, the Luxembourgish ecosystem, from which we believe we can learn a lot as well. So thank you, all of you, for attending this second conference. Again, big data is a big subject. It's time to get started, and so I will turn to Karen Shingen, who will introduce our two speakers of the day. And I wish you a very good conference.
So welcome, and as Laure already said, great to have you all here in this brand new auditorium. As those of one who have attended our first conference know, FinTechMeets has always the same format. We have a global pitch, which gives an overview of the sector, of the industry, its latest trends, challenges. And then it's followed by a startup pitch, which will see more concretely how this industry applications can be made. So, speaking of big data, I think we could have found nobody better than Jonathan Basse of Data Essentials. He is the CTO and founder of the company. And Jonathan works towards building a new class of applications, leveraging big and fast data with native cloud infrastructure. He has gained quite some interesting work experience working for companies like eProceed, KBL, Oracle, what else do you have here? Victor Book Services. And what's interesting is that Jonathan now also works together with our group, and he is setting up our data lake strategy, providing first big data solutions, notably in behavioral data detection, fraud detection. Jonathan's speech will be followed by, as I mentioned, a more concrete application thereof, which will be done by Jed Grant of KYC3. Jed has been in technology and for already some 25 years. And the last 5 years he really spent on due diligence and yes. Jed has created KYC3 2 years ago, and what's interesting to notice is the company has really become quite a success. And what's also interesting for us as a group to report is that Jed's company, KYC3, was the only non-French fintech company selected by our group recently, and he has delivered a quite well-working product to our wealth management entity, which is now being used in Paris and in Geneva. So we are very proud, let me just say, that we host both these companies at Lux Future Lab. And I would like now immediately to leave the floor to you, Jonathan, first, and then to Jed. And just for the organization of this, let us take the questions at the end when both have finished, so that then we have all the questions together. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone. First and foremost, thank you very much to both Lux Future Lab and BGL for hosting us. When Catherine told me first about this presentation, it was supposed to be 40 people, so it's a bit different. And I had one question: what's big data? And it started wrong somehow. Big data is one of those terms that has been so much transformed by marketing people that it's a nonsense today. It's one of these buzzwords. So I would like to try with you, technical issue? Okay. What is the buzz around big data? What do we mean? Obviously, we have the term big and we have the term data, but what's beyond that? I'll try to look at that and see if it's just a big hype or if we have real application of what big data can bring us. And I will first propose you a definition that I really like. It's about comparison with the teenage sex. Everybody seems to speak about big data, but at the end of the day, when we request real use case on real definition, we have nothing but, you know, snore. So I will turn myself to some of the figures that we use in the industry. Forrester, Gartner, IBM, and the others. You know, there are hundreds of thousands of people. They certainly think well, and they should have somehow a definition that fits and that explains to all of us what's really big data. So Forrester, frontier, firm ability to store, process, and access, well, SPA. All the data it needs to operate. Well, no, it's boring, I think. Let's move to another one. Gartner is certainly the one used by all the IT department in the place, so they should be right. We speak about high volume, velocity, variety. That's interesting. We compare information to assets, but then we move to cost-effective and innovation in the middle. Certainly digital transformation just after that. So somehow snoring, at least I believe. Let's try with O'Reilly. We all read O'Reilly book. At least each IT guy in the room have read one O'Reilly book. Well, big data that exceeds the processing capacity of conventional database systems. Too big, move too fast, or doesn't fit structure, database architecture, gain value. That's the one I do love, but too many words. Not really interesting at the end of the day. A short one, IBM. 3 attributes: volume, variety, velocity. Unfortunately outdated. It was right 5 years ago, but it's no longer the case. So let's try together to create a common understanding of what's big data and why it matters, really. How big is the big? I think that should be the first question, is the first term. Well, the Internet of Anythings, everyone is using it today. It currently amounts for around 4 zettabytes of informations. 90% of those 4 zettabytes has been generated in the 2 or 3 last years. What will be the future? According to IDC, we are moving toward 44 zettabytes of information by the end of 2020. So 44 zettabytes. Who knows what's a zettabyte? Okay, not even the IT guys. It's okay, let's try. Zettabytes. You all have an iPhone or something similar, 64 gig. Okay, it's 1 million iPhones. Is it making sense? No, okay, let's try to compare it to something very different. And we'll start with something very simple because everyone can figure it out. A grain of rice. It's 1 byte. Okay, so if we say a grain of rice is 1 byte, then we move forward to a cup of rice for a kilobyte, 8 bag for a megabyte, 3 semi-track for a gigabyte. The movie you are going to watch tonight is bigger than that. A terabyte is 2 container chip, and then we continue moving toward the zeta. The peta would be a blanket of around 1 meter on Manhattan, and the exa would be a blanket over the west coast toward the zettabyte, the whole Pacific. And so for the sake of talking about it, the yottabyte, the next target, is the Earth of little grain of rice, okay? So that's how big is the data. That's what we are speaking about. But wait a minute, how is it possible that we have 44 zettabytes of information if we consider that it has been estimated that the Library of Congress, which is the biggest one, has an amount of 3 petabytes of data, 3,000 terabytes of information. How the heck is it possible that we produce 44 zettabytes of information and that we store them by the end of 2020? Well, there starts the change in our society. We are nowadays, all of us, leaving trail of information. We have what we call a digital footprint. And this footprint could be compared to the 21st century Hansel and Gretel story. We are all living by each of our actions, be it on our phone, over the computer, or even at work, and with whatever we do that actually use a computing system, we are leaving small traces of the operation that we perform. And all these traces, because the storage is cheap, can now be stored. And it gives us 44 zettabytes. Okay, you can remove the cat picture from that. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but still, a large amount of information processed by system. And most of them are actually unknown. They are technical information that can be processed. They are generated by system themselves, and they are creating more value around the information. Okay? And I believe that now we have a definition of how big it is. But still, it doesn't make any sense if it's just for the sake of storing them. So what we are looking into when we talk about big data is the ability of analyzing them, the ability to sort out this information, remove the noise, and hold the cats, and get a signal, get a key. It's actually listening to what's happening, and a lot of us are just not really figuring out what we can leave. And it might be considered as spying at some point. And that's the reason why regulation needs to set boundaries around that. And it's one of the very interesting about Europe and how Europe is moving forward. I had a discussion in the hobby with someone, and I was discussing about Bank of America. Well, United States are a great country when it comes to data. Almost no regulation at all. So Bank of America does have 30% of the United States people as customer, therefore they can create trends. It's their ability, they can do it. I'm not sure we could do that on the European market. But anyway, listening to that signal and making sense out of it, basically unlocking the human conversation, having a look at how data can qualify things, people, behavior, information, creating value. We are really creating insights. And the ability to create those insights, which I believe fall under the umbrella, the term big data, is actually called data science. The data science is the process of transforming raw information and creating value on top of this raw information. And that's really what should matter, because storing data is just a matter of technology. Creating the value is a matter of processing and understanding. It's really a matter of thinking, machine learning. And to do that, machine learning is not voodoo thinking. It's actually using techniques that we have in our toolbox since ages. Some of the algorithms that we are using have more than 200 years old. It's just that since today, we did not add the capability, the technical capability in terms of processing and memory to use it over a large amount of information. 10 to 15 years ago, it was reserved to hyper-performance computing for weather. Nowadays, anyone can launch instance in Amazon and start processing data. It's just a given. We can do it, so we should be prepared to do it and start thinking about how we can make things better and how we can create value with this ability of processing information. And it's a need because, as Anderson told us, software, so what we are using, the application we all have in our mobile devices, are eating the world. The value proposition, the user experience is now in the software, and the software uses the information. And I will just speak about a few of them because Jed will talk a lot about very interesting use cases. But I'm pretty sure you all know these 6 companies, and I will discuss a bit more about Netflix. Netflix, who have seen House of Cards in the room? Illegally. Still. Okay. House of Cards is the first data-driven series show. House of Cards is being created based on the application of data science on top of usage from Netflix by all the worldwide users. It has been decided that House of Cards UK from the 70s had to be adapted, and it has been, all the actors, the 10 major actors, has been picked up based on users' preference. From the data, it was supposed to be the #1 show. From the figures, it's the #1 show. Data-driven shows. Well, still not the scripts, but at least the idea, okay? And all of these companies and all the internet-centric companies are relying heavily on that because they have this at heart. It's part of their DNA to collect information, to process information, and to take action based on the information. They are in a kind of virtuous cycle from the user towards the data, towards the modification of the user experience. And it's an always moving cycle. Okay? So good. We have a starting point. I believe we have somehow a definition. And again, a technical issue? No, okay. But those are technical, those are internet-centric startups. They have been created around data. That's their key selling point. So what's in it for a bank, if you think about it? Well, first, I don't think we have to think bank. All the business are data business. The sake of an application, a simple application, is to process data, process information. So data has been at the heart of everything since the beginning. And when we were not able to process or send the information over, those knowing the information, having the data in their possession, were the leaders, okay? So data is beyond any single business, from farming towards banking, towards insurance, and all the rest. Now, if we think banks, well, we start to have really interesting figures. And the one I want to show you is the fact that major banking institution in the world thinks that the first use case for information is this 360 view of the customer. The ability to better understand the customer, not only based on the information we gather manually and we know as human, but also by the processing of all the data related to a given user and the ability to profile the user, to better serve it at the end of the day, obviously. We can think about other trends, and I picked up 3 just for you. I believe enhancing the customer experience overall should be one of the target, and it's certainly something in the marketing space that's very important, and we have now the ability to do it. If we think real-time, and if we think modern banking, the real-time offering is getting some momentum now, and we have the model to be able to process valid information to go toward real-time. And overall, it's less known, but it's still very important, operation optimization, and that applies to all the operation departments and back office department. So does it mean that tomorrow you're gonna lose your job? No. No, the machine is not yet there first. Then the cognitive thinking is something that the machine is still not able to do. And there comes the human and the ability to provide a machine with the right approach toward the information. So overall, if we think big data, I believe that means a technology move, adopting the right technology to be able to store the information and process the information. A huge organizational change to start think data-driven and cross-function team that can bring the technical knowledge with the business knowledge to be able to start processing the information correctly. And then lately, the people themselves and the cognitive understanding that they can bring on top of the information. And that's the definition I will leave you with, and I hope it gave you a common understanding on what could be big data.